Well, to talk more about the Prime Minister's visit and what has been achieved and all these deals and agreements that have been arrived at, we're now joined by Aman Thakur, Adjunct Fellow, Chair in US-India Policy Studies and at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Also, Rajiv Dogra, former diplomat, and Derek Grossman, Senior Defense Analyst, the RAND Corporation. Thank you all for joining us. And Aman Thakur, first to you, during the talks between Prime Minister Modi and President Joe Biden, after that, there's been a lot of talk of this new era of India-US relationship and friendship. What would you say on that, given the kind of welcome that Prime Minister Modi got, given the kind of hosts of agreements that have been arrived at?
Yeah, Gargi, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. This has been one of the, very consequential visits by Indian Prime Minister to the United States, just given the breadth of the deliverables that have come out of the joint statement. When you look at, an overarching theme of trust and proximity and closeness between the two leaders, but then you look at the specific areas in which they're collaborating on defense, a new jet engine deal and acquisition of drones, on high technology, be it artificial intelligence, semiconductors, quantum computing, biotech, be it on climate change, on climate energy and climate financing, on people-to-people ties. You've seen a lot of proximity. And I think one of the key things is also a recognition of what it is that India needs. What is it that India is trying to develop and how the United States can provide collaborative and partnerships in order to achieve India's goals, be that on net zero targets, be that on India's investments in becoming a leader in 6G, be it India's indigenization of its defense technology, the fact that the jet engine deal has technology transfer so that Indian companies will be able to produce a jet engine technology moving forward. It's a recognition, I think, from the United States that India and India's development is consequential and important for the United States. And that, I think, is one of the central parts that you see out of the joint statement and the fact sheet that was released yesterday after the bilateral talks between both leaders. And in that sense, I think the deliverables have been really consequential, in addition to the symbolism, the proximity, the fact that this is the highest protocol level state visit for the Prime Minister. On symbolism as well as on substance, this has been an incredibly consequential visit.
Right, absolutely. And so many welcome agreements. Ambassador Dogra, what's also important to see here is that a lot of agreements on defense, on technology are also aimed at countering Chinese global influence.
Well, let's not jump to China straight away. Let me give a little background.
I don't see how we can't, but yes, go ahead. Yes.
It's only natural that we should talk in terms of high technology, because if you look at the Indian presence in USA today, number of high technology companies, a number of computer companies are headed by Indians. So if the tap is open for America-India link, I think it is only natural recognition that if Indians are contributing there, we can contribute jointly as well. And there's no doubt that in this new age which we are entering into, the world is entering into, technology, high technology is going to give us the breath of life. But like all visits, I think it will be too premature to claim it as a great success. I'm sure it is a success, but when the print of today becomes sepia tinted, then we would be better judges.
All right, that's interesting.
Big so, success it is.
A word of caution there. Why is that, Ambassador?
Well, the thing is that the words have to be translated into practice. If there is a desire to set up a joint venture or a research facility, how fast it is translated into actually bricks and mortar. So that has to be seen. That is why the word of caution. It's not the desire which is lacking, but
sure,
it is the will to implement it. But more importantly, since you talked about defense and China and so on, there's no doubt that China was the dragon in the room all through. But more than that, I'm talking about the chemistry of the entire visit, starting with the visuals which you showed of President Biden and his wife accompanying Prime Minister Modi after the initial morning ceremonial welcome. The report says that first Mr. Biden and Modi started walking hand in hand. And then when Mrs. Biden came in,
yes.
she remarked that, look, I don't have any hand to hold because my husband is holding PM Modi's hand. So that shows the informality, the warmth between the two leaders, and of course, in this case, his spouse as well. The second thing, talking of China and talking of the strategic issues, is the report. I may be mistaken in reading that report, but the report says that for the private dinner, only the two NSAs were present. So if that is correct, then it shows a lot. Then China is certainly the dragon that was watching the dinner very closely.
All right, Derek Grossman, your comments on China being the dragon in the room during this entire the relationship, and also looking forward in the future, given where India is in the US right now, given its tensions with China, even though you had Antony Blinken going there and visiting, but then after that the president's comments about Xi Jinping have not really helped matters. So how do you view this visit and all these agreements that have been arrived at?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I think, jumping off of the earlier point that, the depth and breadth of the agreement between the U.S. and India is really historic and really incredible, frankly, in all the different spheres in which the two sides are cooperating. But of course, as you mentioned, China is certainly lurking in the background. If you look at the joint statements, you won't find China mentioned directly. Of course, it's addressed in the press conference, and rightfully so. And I think that the U.S. and India is certainly a strong component of their cooperation is security cooperation in dealing with China. And when you look at kind of the U.S. position on India, and we've seen this over the last few days, but really, this has been we've seen it intensify over the last few days, but it's really been an ongoing debate, the values versus interest debate. It's very clear that the Biden administration has decided to prioritize essentially hard interests over values in this case, because there are some real concerns about Modi and the BJP and kind of this increasingly illiberal approach that India is taking domestically. But when you look at kind of the international landscape, the U.S. wants to counter China at all costs within the Indo-Pacific and globally. And in order to do that, India is an enormous geostrategic advantage in doing that, because having India on China's western flank while the U.S. is strengthening alliances and partnerships on China's eastern flank with Japan, with South Korea, with Taiwan, with the Philippines, right? That creates a situation in which China is going to have limited bandwidth to deal with the U.S. and its allies and partners. And so India helps in that regard. We can't lose sight of that.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on the program today as the Prime Minister is on the third day of his state visit in the U.S. Thank you for joining us.